Welcome back to Saturday Social, where we are joined by James and Lyes. Right, Sam, there's still just about over a week. I think it shuts on Monday, September the 1st, left of the transfer window. So still a bit of time for clubs to do that last bit of business. I'm hoping, as a Spurs fan, that we get a bit more business done. So we've tasked our guests with picking one player that every Premier League club must sign. A few rules with this one.
Yeah, we've got James doing 10 and Lyes doing 10. We're going to go in alphabetical order. So James, Arsenal. Who's your choice? And this one's interesting because a lot of Arsenal fans are saying they need a left winger and you've not gone with that.
No, because they've got Eze now. So Martinelli's he's going to fly. He's going to shoot up. It's going to be okay. I think with Havertz gone, maybe another striker would be nice. And Muani, Juventus are getting a bit frustrated with getting that deal done. Obviously, he was on loan there. I really like him. I think in transition he would be great for them as well. He knits up the play really, really well, which I know is something they're trying to be better at. If Gyökeres gets injured, then you're kind of struggling a little bit as well. And PSG don't want him. So I think it's another hijack. But I think if you can get it done, wow, all of a sudden you've got two really exciting strikers.
What are your thoughts on that, Lyes?
I like Kolo Muani, but then what happens when Havertz comes back? Where does he kind of get minutes there? Because I feel like he's the natural Gyökeres kind of replacement.
Loan deal.
Yeah, it's low risk, high reward, right?
Quick, I like that. Deal.
You thought of all the answers.
Yes, you've got Villa.
Yeah.
So who have you gone with?
Man.
Ooh, Nicholas Jackson.
I've gone with Nicholas Jackson. I'm a little annoyed, actually, because Fabrizio tweeted this out. I swear on my life, right? He tweeted this out a day after I sent this to the
I swear. He's the transfer guru.
God.
I manifested this deal.
There we go.
Obviously, it makes sense, right? Nicholas Jackson reuniting with Unai Emery. Both of them worked together at Villarreal. And I look at Villa, right? Last season, let's not forget, the first half of the year, they had Duran and Watkins sharing striker minutes. And in the second half of the season, it was Rashford and Watkins. Both of those have now left the club. And Watkins, I think at this point in his career, there is a bit of inconsistency now creeping in. I'm a huge fan of Watkins, but I personally believe that. And I think of Nicholas Jackson, I don't believe his level is title-winning center forward, but I still believe he's a player that it could be a huge part of a team fighting for Champions League, fighting for European moments. I still think he's a good player. And I think for Villa, this would be a great level for him in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Jackson at Villa would be incredible. And I think he's been unfortunate with how Chelsea have signed two strikers. And obviously, when you're third in the pecking order, it's difficult.
Yeah.
James, Bournemouth.
Interesting one.
Yeah, I've gone for a right back. Namdi Collins. He was at Frankfurt last season. And England under-21s, I saw him against them, and I was really impressed with him. Big lad.
In the final, wasn't he? Played the final,
yeah, big lad. And I just think he's a really good player for them. And I think the reason I wanted a more kind of defensive right back as opposed to someone bombing on is that you've got Semenyo in front of him. And I think in terms of defensive reinforcements, that's where Bournemouth need to look, in my opinion. Lots of midfielders, lots of sort of hybrid forwards. And I think Collins looks really, really good. Exactly the kind of player that they kind of go and buy, and he shines, and then you can flip him maybe a little bit. That's the Bournemouth way, it feels like. Really exciting player, good right back, and they need a right back.
Yeah, decent shout that. Like that one. Yes, we'll go to, where are we going? Brentford next. Obviously lost a lot of players, can badly do with some reinforcements. So who is the one signing you think they need and why?
I've gone for George Mkhitaryan at Lyon. It looks, at the moment they still have this on the books, but I think that is potentially a move that's going to happen in the last few days of the window. And if you lose Wissa and you lose Mbeumo, that's 40 goals right there. Now, they've brought in Utara. They're going to hope that he can kind of, cushion that load a little bit. But I look at Mkhitaryan, I think he's extremely versatile. I think he can play in a 2, he can play in a 1, he can even play from wide positions as well too. Lyon have done really well to keep him for the moment because of the fire sale that's happened there this summer. But I think there's an opportunity that if a Premier League club comes in for Mkhitaryan, he could be available. So I think it'd be a decent shot.
17 goals, 9 assists in all comps last season.
And largely coming off the bench. Lacazette was leading the line for them last season.
I think that's a good point you make about the versatility, because Brentford in those forward areas do like players that are versatile. So it's your shout. Let's stick him up. I don't know if you can reach the board from there. I think I might have to help you out.
James, Brighton, you've gone to strengthen the Brighton-Chelsea relationship.
I have, yeah. It's a well-trodden road. And Alfie Gilchrist, who was at Sheffield United last year, played right back there. And that's the one area with Brighton. Again, they've got Mats Pfeiffer, who's been playing there, and playing well there, actually. He's kind of known as a centre midfielder, but playing at right back. But to have maybe a little bit more depth there. Levi Colwill went there and did really, really well, and you saw the growth there, and it worked for both parties. So maybe Alfie Gilchrist, who I really love. I think he's got real substance to him, a quality about him, plays the ball forward, loves to defend, loves to block. Something a little bit different for Brighton, who could maybe deal with that. It would be good for them to have that little bit more metal, maybe. It feels like a real kind of leader of a player. and I think he'd be a good fit.
Let's bring Sam in as a Chelsea fan. Do you think that's a good fit? Can you see that happening?
100%. Really good play. He played, I think, 30 times in the Championship last season. I think a Premier League move makes a lot of sense for him.
Interesting though, 30 starts for Sheffield United, but only one start after January 2025, which is
so he had. I think he had an injury at one point, and then struggled to get it back in the team. Chowdhury, I think, became the kind of right back there, but I think they loved him. Yeah, they really enjoyed him.
Okay, Burnley.
So originally I had Andy Diouf here, and then 2 hours later he went to Inter Milan, so I had to change my pick. I think Hayden Hackney's been a player that's been linked to a few Premier League clubs this season. Newcastle, West Ham, almost had a move to Ipswich that broke down last minute. But I look at him and I think in terms of being able to make the next step of the Premier League, I think he is ready for that move. He's been pretty good for Borough. And I look at Burnley, I think in the middle, if I'm going to pick out a weakness for them maybe, I think they could use a bit more depth there. Yeah,
got the assist, didn't he, for Harvey Elliott in the semi-final, I believe, of the Euros. Tidy player. And, interesting to see if that one progresses.
James, Chelsea, you've gone against the whole Chelsea regime,
this is an interesting shout, Jimbo.
Completely against what they do as a club.
We've been bigging you all up so far, but obviously Chelsea's philosophy is, tends to buy young players, long-term contracts. You've gone with a very experienced good player, age 30, I believe, Akanji. So
I think
where's the thought process?
I think you're allowed one guy. There's nothing wrong with being in your 30s. There's nothing wrong with that.
It could be genius.
Look, I think he is such a. We know how good Akanji is. He's such a competent player. There's an opportunity there to go and get someone like him. I don't know how the deal works. If it's a sort of loan or you buy him. I think it looks like he's not got a future at Man City. He can play as a right back or a centre back. Sorry, I'm saying stuff that everyone knows all about. He is, he's the real deal. You know that. So if you want to bring someone in, I think. He adds a leadership to the Chelsea team as well, which I think is something that is thrown at them sometimes because of the age. Incredibly intelligent person and player. I think, why not? Why not just because you can only sign players that are 20? I get it, and it's it's working to a point, but sprinkling of experience is nothing wrong.
Sam?
Yeah, I see your argument, but I think when you look at Chelsea and like Josh Achempong, for example, he's very young. He started the first game of the season, done very well. I think that type of signing will stunt the growth of a player like Josh, and I think Chelsea would view it in that way.
But if you're trying to, if you're trying to get to a point where you might, champions of the world, you'd like to be champions of the country, right?
Don't matter what you said that. You said that a bit. Champions of the
I'm
world.
not happy about it.
We love the Club World Cup.
But the point is like he is, he's the real. I don't know why I'm arguing here.
Stick it on. Sam's not having it, but we will move on to the next one. You've got a player for Palace that is heavily linked.
Yeah. Bilal El-Khanous, I think he was the one player in that Leicester team at times last season that looked like he had a bit about him. His dribbling numbers, his creative numbers were all pretty good for Leicester last season. And Crystal Palace have just lost Ebere Eze. But I think with Crystal Palace, they do something probably better than anybody, and that's looking at players at maybe a club in the Championship or those lower teams, bringing them to the next step, and then maybe even selling them on in the future. Look at Eze from QPR to Palace. Elise, Reading. They do this exceptionally well, and I think he's next up. Now, I think the worry is, if I were a Spurs fan, I would be looking at this guy and maybe saying, could he be the guy that we get instead of Eze?
I think that is linked, actually.
So if I were Crystal Palace, I would be, like you talk about, they need to get the signing done over the next week. For me, this is a necessity.
I think that's one of the first ones as well that's very likely to happen as well.
Yeah, for sure.
He's very heavily linked with moves, and Palace are one of the clubs in for him. Everton.
Oh. Have I got Everton here?
Yeah, Sule, no?
Oh, of course, yeah, sorry. So I had Matis Sule, but, Lyes dropped a tweet saying that Tyler Dibbling was going to Everton. Ben Romano did it as well. And so, because they needed a right winger.
Yeah.
And I thought this would still be another great addition, but I'm not sure you need it as much. So to go back to the two right backs that I've got here, both of these would be really good shouts to kind of to fill that, because Tyler Dibbling has now taken maybe that role as that right winger, which is a great signing for them. So forget him a little bit. It's more about, I think they now need to go and get a right back. And so either Collins or Gilchrist. I think Collins would be a really good fit for Everton.
Okay. Stick him up.
But I'll pop him there anyway, just for...
Stick him down, because that's the magnet we've got printed. Lyes, you've gone with Reece Nelson, someone for Fulham this is, who's very familiar with Fulham.
Yeah, I mean, he's familiar, but he's not familiar with playing with them. He barely played last season, so I think this would be a nice second chance. Iwobi has even spoken about how much he would love Nelson to join the club. Look, Reece Nelson's a very talented player. I think coming up through the ranks of Arsenal, he was seen as a real prospect, went to Germany, tore it up, and I think ever since he's come back to Arsenal, it's been flashes, it's been moments. And I think injury has really curtailed him. But I think if he can stay fit and go back to Fulham and maybe have the season he was expecting to have last year, we can start to see the real Reece Nelson, which we haven't seen for a few years now.
He's still only 25 years old.
Yeah.
I think
He's so young
just needs
still, man.
consistency.
Yeah, had 3 loan moves as well,
Right
isn't
here.
he?
Oh, God, what am I doing? Sorry, I'm all over the place.
That was
I was
thinking about my next
Yeah,
one.
your next one
Sorry,
is
my bad.
Leeds.
So Leeds, interesting one.
Yes.
Someone returning back to Leeds.
Yes, so there is so much change happening all the time. So I actually went for a kind of a left winger in Chris Furyk, but then Okafor has come through the door. He has said that he might play as a centre forward, but he might play on the left hand side as well. And with Ampadu getting injured, fortunately due to the flexibility of the Saturday Social team, they've been able to change magnets. So
Shout out everyone behind the scenes on the Saturday Social team.
So Calvin Phillips, I think there's been a lot of talk about him kind of going back. Obviously, it's not worked at Man City, but it did work at Leeds.
Yeah.
And with Ampadu out now, I think getting another reinforcement as somebody who can play as that defensive midfielder, I think Calvin Phillips is perfect.
Do you
Knows the
think
club and all those things.
that would be the best? Sorry, do you think that would be the best fit for Calvin Phillips? Because people forget the year that he had with England. He was England's Player of the Year to that, and then obviously he's gone to City. He's been loaned out. It hasn't quite worked for him. Gave an amazingly honest interview that we did actually on Saturday Social when we did ranks with him, and you can tell he's just itching to play football. Do you think Leeds would be the best fit because the fans would take to him?
I think he'd be comfortable. Obviously, he grew up there and made his name there, and. I don't subscribe to this idea that once it goes wrong once, that's the end of it. He's a really, really talented player who eats up the ground. And I think, yes, okay, that final year at Leeds wasn't great, but it wasn't great for anyone. So I think go back home and get going.
Stick him up. I like it. Right, we go to Liverpool now. Now, Lyes, bear in mind, this is one player every club must sign. Obviously, I think you've gone Isak. But my question to you is this the player they must sign when they've got Ekitike and it looks like they need to strengthen in defence more of a priority than as a striker,
At
surely?
this point, for Isak's sake, they must sign him.
Right, okay.
For Isak's sake, they must sign him, because if they don't, oh my God, I don't think there's going to be a player with more egg on his face than Isak this season with the way it's all kind of gone down. Now, I completely hear your argument. Is a centre forward really what Liverpool needs? Well, I could definitely make the argument that they've definitely lost a few attacking players. They are maybe a little light in that department. As good as Ekitike is, if he goes down, is there a natural centre forward? No. Now, does that mean that the best centre forward maybe in the league has to be the backup or his starter? Maybe not, but I think Isak, you add this guy to Liverpool's team, and you can talk to me about, is there enough reinforcements in defence? Is there enough depth in midfield? I'm a big subscriber in the belief that if you have the best players in one team and they're coached it'll work eventually. You have Isak, Salah, and Van Dijk. That's winning you games by itself, man.
Forward line, if it does happen. Will it happen, do you think? James, what have you made of the Isak saga, and do you think he will become a Liverpool player before the end of the window?
I think there's so much pressure building with it. It is getting ugly. Yeah. It's getting really ugly. And in terms of him going back to Newcastle, if it doesn't work out, that is then ugly after that.
Because he needs to leave at this point.
If he scores, if he stays, he scores the game after, I think the fans will be fine with it.
We do have short memories, don't we? You're right. I think if he does go, in terms of that backup that you've got there, because Ekitike looks great.
He does.
That's so great.
I feel for him.
But I think it feels like Arne Slot's going to kind of outscore the opposition. And having someone as complete as Isak, in addition to Ekitike, is frightening.
I love that.
Stick him up then.
James, you've gone with another Newcastle player from Man City. They're not going to like this.
But I was coming from the Manchester City side of it. He has been linked a little bit. Tino Livramento at Man City. I think in terms of him as a player, just so complete as a fullback, both on the left-hand side or the right-hand side.
I think he's really underrated, Tino Livramento, because he's been consistent for so long. On both sides. And
he's so young.
And he's been thrown in at a young age in cup finals, in England games. I think he's massively
You talk
underrated.
about both sides as well, too, left and right. I'm talking defensively and going forward as well, too. He can lock down any winger, and going forward as well, too. He's a problem.
I think he's a stunning player. And I think when it comes to Man City and the quality they've got, I think that right-back position is maybe the only place where they haven't got that guy who can, that road runner of a
Fabian
fullback.
Delph syndrome right now,
Yeah.
The replacement for Carl Walker.
Yeah, and I really like Rico Lewis, and I don't think there's anything wrong with him. But I think in terms of different profiles, when you've got the sort of when you have the ability that Man City do to have two great players in every single position, to get someone like Tino Livramento who can drive with the ball the way that he can and is defensively so sound as well. I mean, it feels like he's a bit like a young Carl Walker, but probably maybe a touch bit better on the ball in terms of driving with the ball as well. So, and a fantastic player. I kind of hope Newcastle keep a hold of him. But
they're on
Man City, I'd go and
we go on to Lyes, your beloved Man United. Interesting shout, this one.
It's an ambitious one, man. But hey, you know what it is? I'm ambitious now, man. I saw my club going for Baleba. I'm thinking the world is available to me at this point.
Camavinga,
Yeah, it's a big shout. Like, look, is it going to happen? Almost definitely not. But I think when Man United went in for Baleba, they told the whole world, oh, you thought we had financial issues. Okay, we're actually a little healthy PSR-wise. And Baleba doesn't look like it's going to happen this summer. I think Brighton are going to hold out for next summer. And I look at Camavinga. I think financially, Man United could maybe make this work. If they can get Camavinga, Baleba, if they can...
I'm not sure how they made Seshko work.
Exactly. Like, at this point, they're digging money from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
I think it's more so, could they convince Camavinga to join them? And I look at his position at Real Madrid at the moment, and it almost feels like he's kind of just stuck in the middle at the moment. Over the last few years under Ancelotti, I don't think he's ever really made a name for himself in this team. I think he's always been in and out of the team, playing left back, coming in during games. And under Alonso, he's missed the preseason, he missed the Club World Cup. Will he be able to find a place in this team? And I think next summer this will look a whole lot more likely that he might join an Arsenal or a City or maybe even a Man United. So maybe I'm getting a year ahead of myself.
He's always that player, isn't he? I know what you mean, where they've got an injury at fullback, he'll play. They've got an injury at midfield, they'll play there, but might not have a run again.
But I honestly think in Man United's midfield too, he can drive the ball. He's very good on it. Defensively, I think he's one of the best tacklers in the world. He would be perfect for me in that two-man midfield next to whoever you want to put next to him.
You know what's crazy? He's still only 22, which
young.
goes to show how young he made it. So stick him up, it is yours. I think that is an ambitious one. I know what Lyes is doing.
I'm an ambitious guy, man.
He knows people are watching this. He's trying to make the move happen, is what he's doing. Let's go to...
Just quickly, though, would you be willing to wait for Baleba if you knew he was coming next season and just...
If I knew, 100%. But I think the worry with Baleba is, well, he wants to join us now. If we don't make the Champions League and in a year's time, Liverpool will be after him, City, he's not going to want to come to United if the other teams are after him.
Right, let's go to Newcastle.
Yes.
They've been linked with a lot of players. Obviously, haven't got them over the line. I think this is actually Wolves fans won't want me to say this, but I think this is decent because I think it's realistic.
Yeah, again, like, I'm coming from what the Newcastle need more than, like, you know, I'm not trying to pillage Wolves here. But I think, look, he is their star man now for Wolves. And I think at the back end of last season, and his numbers, like, I think it was 14 or 15 goals and 4 assists as well in 35 games. So,
do you know what? Massively under the radar. 14 goals, 4 assists in that Wolves team. I think that went hugely under the radar.
Yeah, massively. And, you know, he's got size. He wins his aerial duels. He actually can run the channels a bit as well. And I think, look, the problem for Newcastle is that the sort of forward market, which we knew was going to be the big story this season, it's moved on and on and on. And now you're at this level. And I don't think this is a bad shout. But although I would like Vissa there would work as well.
Stick him up then.
65 mil for me is crazy. I'm not going to lie. I like Strand Larson, but wow.
Let's go to Forest. Matty Cash.
Yeah, I mean, they were linked with him all of last week. Obviously, former player from Forest. It does look like they might be going a different direction at right back, but I think right back, in terms of depth, replacement for Aina if he ever needs a rest, I think that's maybe the one position, excuse me.
Okay, it's your shout. It's your team.
Sunderland.
Come up.
Sunderland, yeah, a bit rogue.
Another signing.
Yeah, a bit
Zuma.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was trying to think, obviously, yeah, they have spent a lot of money. Like, is there a sort of a loan move that could work for them? And I feel like Zuma, I think he was top 9% in the top 5 leagues for tackles, pretty high up for interceptions as well. We know he's a good player. And obviously, you know, he does seem to have a problem with being late. I get that. But, like, I think that would you would imagine that being out there would maybe hurt you a little bit, right? And so it feels like he's maybe not got a future at Tottenham. And so if he can go to another Premier League team, that is actually quite an exciting team, and help them out, I think he's good in a couple of ways. One, being a 6 if Xhaka gets injured, there's a real drop-off. But also he can play as a bit of an 8 alongside him as well, so that would work as well.
Xhaka and Bissouma.
So a loan move again, I think, as well. But in terms of pedigree, I think
it's an interesting one. It is one that reports are saying that clubs are in for him, and obviously was left behind for the UEFA Super Cup for Lens. Didn't start in the league game either. I'm not sure loan move benefits Spurs as much. I think it'll either be a sell or they'll keep him. But it's an interesting shout. Stick him up, and we'll move. Speaking of Spurs, to Tottenham. And a transfer that's been heavily linked.
That'll be a big move.
Savinho, can you see it happening?
Yeah, I can see it
love
happening.
that.
I think, look, the emergence of Oscar Bob again this season has kind of left Savinho seemingly as the odd man out. I actually think his season last year at City was decent. Obviously, in terms of, you look at his goals, he I think only scored 1 or 2.
1 goal, 8
but
assists,
his creative numbers were pretty good. And look, I think it was a tough season for any City player, let alone somebody coming into a new country, into a new league, playing for City in his first season. But I think Savinho for Spurs, they're building a nice little young core in attack. I actually like what they're kind of building. I think he could be a big part of that.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great signing. West Ham, James?
Agreed.
Yeah, maybe a bit punchy, but in terms of what they need, the profile that they need, would he want to go? I'd be intrigued to know. I think he had 19 starts at Atletico Madrid. Obviously, Champions League football, that's all very exciting. I think he feels like a West Ham player to me. And I also think that this midfield at West Ham needs legs. And I think the energy that he provides, the work rate that he provides, I think West Ham fans would love him. I think he's needed in that midfield. And he obviously knows the Premier League and get a goal for you as well. I think if it could be done, that'd be wonderful. I don't know if he would want to leave Atletico Madrid or not.
I can see him going to Spurs, you know, one day. With the type of players that we're linked with. I could see Conor Gallagher potentially being...
I don't think he'd get
Still a good player.
I think you've got a lot of...
Oops. But it's an interesting shout. Right, last one. Wolverhampton Wanderers, final club, one player they must sign.
Yeah, I've gone for Jakub Kiwior. I think in defence, I think they are lacking a bit of quality in there, and I think they're lacking numbers. I think Kiwior, he showed last season at Arsenal that he can actually play at a pretty good level. I mean, he locked up Mbappe in that Real Madrid tie. So, look, maybe some would argue maybe he can reach a higher level than Wolves, but I think he would be a really good acquisition for them.
Okay, enjoyed that. I think some good shouts there. There is confirmation of one player every Premier League club must sign before deadline day. There we